It's sort of crazy, to be honest with you. It's sort of crazy. They're a little bit out of control, but they want to make a deal. Badly.
Woke up late, the sun still shines, awful cold, and some peace of mind. All blue jeans, no fancy plans, a good day sitting in my hands. Happy is this happy just. It ain't about what you get. It's about how you love. Laughter, the ones that you trust. It ain't no secret. Happy is this happy does. Some folks chase a pot of gold, but joy is right here.
Welcome to my channel. You're listening to Chevy James. Politics can divide us. War can divide us. Even personalities can divide us. But there is one thing that should unite people of every political belief: prayer.
We begin in D.C., where Madeline Rivera has the latest out of the Middle East. Maddie.
Good morning, Carly and Todd. Iran says it attacked U.S. targets in Kuwait and Bahrain in retaliation to that second round of U.S. strikes. CENTCOM says it hit about 90 Iranian military targets, including air defense systems, coastal surveillance assets, and missile and drone storage sites. U.S. forces say they are trying to degrade Iran's ability to attack commercial shipping in the Strait of Hormuz after Tehran hit 3 ships earlier this week. The latest tit for tat comes as President Trump claims the ceasefire is over. Yet he also insists the attacks don't mean a return to war, and he indicates he will allow the peace talks to continue.
It's sort of crazy, to be honest with you. It's sort of crazy. They're a little bit out of control, but they want to make a deal. Badly.
Whether you voted for President Trump or not, whether you agree with every decision or disagree with many of them, this moment in history carries enormous consequences, not just for America, but for the Middle East and much of the world. Today, I simply want to encourage one thing: pray.
Iran remains defiant. Their top negotiator saying America still hasn't learned that bullying and breaking promises are no longer cost-free. Let me put it plainly. If you strike, you'll get hit. Don't flail around pointlessly and you'll sink even deeper. The Strait of Hormuz will only open with Iranian arrangements, not American threats. A spokesperson for Iran's foreign ministry is also warning of grave consequences to U.S. allies that have helped with the strikes in Iran, saying Mark Rutte's repeated admissions of Europe's willful complicity in the U.S.-Israeli war of aggression against Iran only confirms once again that they were not impartial in this brutal, unlawful aggression. Yet the NATO Secretary General's relentless self-congratulation for serving an illegal war of choice does not reflect strength. It exposes the servile mindset of a fawning courtier who fancies that flattery can raise a king's contempt. The rhetoric and mixed messages raising questions about whether a peace deal can actually be achieved.
Before President Trump returned to office, I don't think I fully appreciated how complicated the relationship with Iran really was. I knew there were disagreements. I knew there were sanctions, but I didn't grasp just how deeply rooted decades of hostility, distrust, and geopolitical rivalry had become. Recent events have reminded many people that these conflicts involve generations of history, not just today's headlines. Whether history eventually praises these decisions or criticizes them, one thing is certain.
Holly and Todd.
Questions indeed. Madeline Rivera, live for us in Washington. Maddie, thank you. All right, let's bring in Senior Fellow at the Independent Women's Forum and Council on Foreign Relations member, Dr. Kanta Ahmed. Dr. Ahmed, good to see you. Thank you for joining us. So it would seem that Iran is willing to risk escalation with the United States in order to maintain control of the Strait of Hormuz. So if this memorandum of understanding was a way to buy some time, that time may be coming to an end here.
I think Iran has been very clear in its actions. It is looking for war. It is not moving towards any kind of reconciliation with the region or the United States. The strikes last night are very significant. The focus has been on Hagg Island in the media. That's about the size of JFK, 15 miles off the coast of Iran. It's where Iran exports and loads millions of barrels of oil. But the targets have been on nearby islands, Keshem Island, which is like Iran's floating aircraft carrier, infested with IRGC, fast boats, tunnels, all of their weapons, and the United States has struck that tremendously well.
The pressure placed on any leader making life and death decisions must be enormous. Every decision carries consequences. Lives, economics, alliances, peace, or war. That is why I believe criticism should never replace prayer.
Also, Abu Musa, an island that belonged to the UAE in 1971 that's occupied by Iran. And most likely, some of these strikes have been staged from the UAE with the US to that region. So this is President Trump and our military tightening the noose on Iran, bringing it to understand that we really have you by the throat, we have you by the jugular, and we are going to pressure you to release the Strait of Hormuz and defang the military defense of Hagg Island, the oil refining, or oil exporting area.
Those specifics that you just mentioned, will that break them? And if not, what more do we need to break them?
I think the United States has extraordinary capabilities. While President Trump has been open to reconciliation, he's sending his negotiators, I think on July 11th, there's going to be more talks in Islamabad, led by our diplomats. He's very clear that Iran cannot be a nuclear power and cannot continue to jeopardize the whole Gulf region. Iran is attempting to hold hostage all of the world's oil infrastructure in Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Kuwait, even Iraq's export capability. And there is much more that we can do. We can, and we have data on all of the missile cities that are around in 29 of Iran's 31 provinces. We can go more aggressively for various infrastructures that impact, unfortunately, power, energy, water. We are holding them to account. And we can see just this week, the Ayatollah's funeral has been held in ceremonial processions in Iraq. That is Iran projecting power in the region. That's the center of Shia religion, those important places in Iraq. So Iran is now no longer run by clerics. That was led by military nationalists. So this is becoming hardline, and we are meeting them with force, and we will bring them to heel.
So Iran retaliated by striking, they say, Bahrain and Kuwait. Talk to us about where our Gulf allies stand right now when it comes to this renewed fighting.
It's a great question. And I think this may have been underpinning some of the tensions in NATO. Our Gulf allies are vulnerable because they're home to some of the most valuable infrastructure that the world's energy depends on. They also have around them, around the shores, hundreds of desalination plants that the region depends on for drinking water. And so the United States is hoping, and Britain is stepping up, that we have more capabilities in the Persian Gulf, British capabilities, French, and so forth. But France and many of the NATO allies want to wait until the war is over, and that's not acceptable.
One final question before we let you go. It's the number one question that Carly and I get asked when it comes to the war in Iran. Can we end this war without boots on the ground?
So I feel we have remarkable capabilities and we have extraordinary allies. Particularly, let's bring to attention the allies of United Arab Emirates and Israel, which has not been fairly represented. It's been criticized publicly. So I do think we can put more pressure without endangering American lives further. However, with the amphibious assets in the region, I would not be surprised if after we've neutralized some of the defenses around these critical islands, that the United States troops, our Marines, may actually take some ground in order to increase pressure. That's not on mainland Iran. That's on those critical regional allies, which will open up the energy flows for the region.
Well, the president says the ceasefire is over, but that does not mean a return to war. So it's a fine line, and we are seeing how this country is walking it right now. Dr. Ahmed, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate your insight very, very much. All right.
In case you may be wondering, my prayer is simple. May God give President Trump wisdom. May he give him discernment. May he surround him with wise counselors. May he protect innocent lives as he can. And may every nation discover that lasting peace is stronger than temporary victory. Because ultimately, history remembers wars, but humanity remembers peace and doesn't understand the need for wars, although they are sometimes necessary.